Welcome to the Readathon. I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and I'm here with an incredibly special guest, someone who is partially qualified to join the police in Massachusetts, almost any department he wants. He has the hair for it anyway. This is long-time listener and good friend, Jeff Brumley. Jeff, welcome to the Readathon.
Speaking as a Thumbian American, I just want
Hey,
to...
you are not a thumb.
No,
You only qualify as a thumb if you're a prick, A, and if your head is actually shaped like a thumb, which yours is not.
What's funny is like when you first gave that description, I was just reminded of the first time I ever heard that description of somebody that was that looked like me. And I think it was Dave Barry. And I don't know, I saw it like 30 years ago or something. It always stuck with me. And then I shaved my head and just ran with it. So.
I have literally never heard it before. I thought I made it up for Trooper Proctor.
You're not the first, and so that makes it perfect.
Oh, I feel better. A Thumbian American. Well, you're not a thumb. You're a wonderful person. And I am curious, like, did you probably only started hearing about following the Karen Read case because of me, right? Are you one of those?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. I've completely abandoned almost all my other podcasts to try to keep up with this.
Well, so tell me, what are your impressions? Do you think that she's definitely guilty and that there's definitely no cover-up / conspiracy?
Oh, she's definitely guilty. There's no cover-ups. Wait, sorry. I have to put virtual hair back on. Right. No.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So I've been following primarily through the readathons and through the discussions in the group. Today was the first time I actually watched any of it. So it was interesting to put that all together and then get names and faces and all that. I think, as you said the other day, it was like, it's like watching Undisclosed in real time, but in reverse. Mm-hmm. And seeing all these things that we've heard about, but been so frustrated in retrospect to want to reach back and just shake people. And I think this is why we're just on pins and needles now and hoping that this goes in a just way.
Yeah.
Because we saw it happen.
I'm hoping it goes in a just way and hoping against hope that something happens after it goes in a just way, which is hard to imagine. I do want to acknowledge I made a mistake on the Readathon, something I learned when I went on Ellen and Rabia's podcast. I made two mistakes that I can think of top of my head. One is that it was not Brian Albert who was involved in a previous legal matter that Judge Bev Cannoni's brother was involved in. It was actually Chris Albert who was involved in a hit and run.
How in the world would you get these mistakes happen?
Car situation that involved a death when he was like 22 years old. He turned himself in and did 6 months in jail for that. And the other mistake I made, and I put it in the show notes for that, is that Karen Read probably cannot sue after this if she is acquitted, because the acquittal will be her, quote, relief. So if she does have any potential lawsuits, it would be very difficult for her to bring them against the state, for instance, because the state will just say, hey, you were acquitted. What are you suing us for? So it would be some creative lawyering if she were to find some way to sue somebody as a result of this. So I made a mistake there.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have to acknowledge your mistakes when you make them, unlike some cops, right?
Yeah. I mean, like in terms of things afterwards, I mean, we're going to get to the substance of today's things, the closing arguments, but like there's accusations of the witnesses lying. And I'm like, are there implications of that? Is there, or I guess it depends if somebody decides to pursue it.
I'll tell you, it's extremely rare for anybody who commits perjury to be arrested or punished for perjury. Yeah. On the federal level, it's a little bit different, but on the state level, almost never.
Yeah.
And we watched perjury be committed in real time in this trial. There was one witness, a young woman, I think it may have been Julie Nagel, who on the stand said, and I watched a video of this today because I wanted to make sure I remembered it correctly. On the stand was being questioned, I believe, by Yannetti, and was like, do you know where Julie McCabe's house is? And was like, I don't recall. And it was like, haven't you dog sat for them at their house and stayed over? Yes. So you know where their house is? Yes. So lied.
Yeah.
Was then asked a question that forced her into telling the truth. And it's like, this happened again and again and again in this trial. And, you know, we had Brian Higgins, being asked on a Friday, did you destroy your cell phone? Throw it at, no. Asked Monday, yes. Like again and again, when people are confronted with the inability to get out of their answer, they change their answer. And that first answer is a lie. It's a lie. I don't recall. If you do recall, is a lie.
It's like if the question is, do you know their address by heart? Like, probably not. But do you know where they live? Yes.
Yes. Have you been to their house? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about today.
Yeah.
Because it was pretty amazing. I was all prepared to, listen to the arguments, like a podcast this morning in my earpods while I was walking or working out, and then maybe on my way to work, and then like sneak some in like while I was at work doing other stuff. And then some courtroom drama shit hit the fan and it delayed stuff. But first, one of the things that happened this morning is who should show up in court with some of the O'Keefe family members are some of the McCabe and McAlbert tribe.
Okay.
Brian Albert, Colin Albert, Jen McCabe showed up with the O'Keefe family.
Huh.
And it was an incredible sight to see them all sitting together because it obviously evoked a couple of thoughts. One is, Brian and Colin especially to me, it could be at the center of the cover-up of your family member's murder or death. If it's not a murder, it's an accidental death or something. A. And B, the jury is looking at the witnesses in this case that they're being asked to judge in these final arguments. And it felt like very jury intimidation-y to me. In a way that made me very uncomfortable. It was very bizarre. And of course, Turtle Boy was sitting right there with
was he too?
It was so fucked up.
Jeez. Did anybody take his phone this time, though?
No. Nobody smacked his phone out of his hand. And then the thing that happened after that was there was this long ass, like hour plus 2 hour sidebar discussion situation.
Yeah, which was great because I'm on the West Coast, so I was up at 6 a.m. for this. And I was like, oh, it's not
Lucky
starting
you.
yet. We're just going to stare at the ceiling fan. Like, well,
lucky you.
Guess I'll do my Wordle.
Yeah. And then apparently it was because as fan twirls in Needham, right? Apparently it was because a juror came up to the judge and there was a back and forth, left the courtroom, came back up, and that juror ended up being dismissed. The judge later said it had nothing to do with the case. It was personal reasons. But apparently reporters in the courtroom said that the juror looked very upset. And they couldn't tell if the juror was upset to be dismissed or looked upset about something else. One reporter in the courtroom, and, I hesitate to cite stuff like this because it's, hearsay-ish, but, these journalists have been in the courtroom the whole time. Yeah. One reporter in the courtroom said, this is the juror that, and Turtle Boy said this too, and he's the one I hesitate to quote, but a different reporter also said this, that this is the juror who during Trooper Paul's testimony was like mouthing like, what? So this is the juror number 3 that was dismissed. And then after the closing arguments finished today, they basically chose the deliberating jurors by lottery. And now we have 6 men, 6 women deliberating, which is interesting because the pool skewed predominantly female. And the 6 men that were in the pool of the original 16, 17 people are all in the deliberating jury now. So now it's balanced, 6 men, 6 women. Right. So that's where we're at. So let's get to it.
Yeah.
We have 2 sides to talk about. One side, there's not a lot to talk about. The other side, there's a lot to talk about, in my opinion. But I can ask your opinion about this.
Can I start off with something first?
100%.
One of the interesting things. So it started off with just the jury instructions, which is normal. But this is my first time seeing this and first time hearing about Judge Canone. And I wanted to say that she is Knuff. Just wanted to say she is Knuff. But what was, and I haven't seen like the rest of what she's been doing, but just what I got from this was, first, I like that she questioned the jury, just like, have you talked to anybody? And that apparently happens every day. I think that's great. But I got a sense of empathy in the instructions. Like I've actually tried, my experience as a trial lawyer was in this courtroom. I've been in their shoes. This is how it goes. It was empathetic. It wasn't, just like barking the rules at them. It was it was human. I was impressed by that.
When I was a trial lawyer, I tried a lot of cases in this courtroom. The thing I liked least about the trial was just before I stood up to give my closing argument, the judge would say, "Jurors, remember, closing arguments are not evidence." But it's true. So because of that, you have to put your notebooks away. All right, so if you just put your notebooks away and just listen, and though the closing arguments are not evidence, they're certainly a very important part of the case. And we've all seen how hard the lawyers have worked for this long period of time. And we've all noticed that you've paid great attention throughout the entire trial. I'd ask that you extend your courtesy to the closing arguments.
Every single time she's addressed the jury, I've been impressed with how she's addressed the jury. Yeah. When the defense wrapped up, when the prosecution wrapped up, her instructions before they deliberated today, she is very fair when addressing the jury, saying like, it is the state's job to prove the case. You know, it is she's just being very, very clear, very slow, very fair, very very soft, if that's an appropriate word to use. Like I would say the same thing if she were a man, by the way. She's addressing them in a very soft mannered way that sort of belies some of her like toughness that we've seen of hers in court.
Even like, I'm going to give them a 5-minute warning, and it's not a rebuke. It's just to let them know. Like, that's great.
Right. It's like, and one of them was clearly prepared in his timing, and one of them was clearly not. So
so I didn't make it all the way to the end, but you can tell me about how it all ended.
It basically ended in a really embarrassing way, in my opinion.
Dang.
I don't know if he was embarrassed, but I was embarrassed on his behalf.
Nice. We'll get to
So
that.
So Jackson gets up to start making his summation. And did you hear Jackson's whole summation?
Yes, except for one point where I had to go get a second cup of coffee because it was early.
All right. It was like a podcast episode.
Oh, yeah.
It was like he starts by saying, you have been lied to in this courtroom, and your job is to never, ever look the other way. There was a cover-up in this case, plain and simple. And then he actually told a story about every single element of this case. I mean, he skipped a couple of minor things. He didn't talk about like the scars on Colin's hands. He didn't talk about it. It doesn't matter. But he did the work that like of tying threads together that weren't tied together on the stand. Like after, because you can't when someone gets off the stand, you can't turn to the jury and say, so here's what that means.
Right. And they say like this is questioning. This is not time for argument. Well, now it's time for argument. So yeah.
Right. So what did you hear?
One question I had was he used this phrase about looking the other way. And I was wondering, was that a quote that he pulled from somebody or is that just in a summation of what he thought that the cops were doing? I wasn't sure.
Look the other way. Look the other way. 4 words that sum up the Commonwealth's entire case. 4 words that sum up the hopes of those who have tried to deceive you.
It was something he said that I hadn't heard before, and it was very apt. It was, instead of saying like they want you to believe something, it was like they want to, and instead of saying the word like obfuscate, or instead of using a word like they want you to believe X, he was saying they want you to look the other way. Yeah. And it was such a visual representation. I thought it was really brilliant.
I did too. I mean, so much to the point, like I thought like maybe it was a quote from one of Proctor's text messages or something. Okay, but no, that's fine. One of the most powerful things that I thought he said, one was putting yourself in her shoes. You don't want to find yourself in the crosshairs of a Michael Proctor.
Right.
My goodness.
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, so he at the beginning did this long laundry list of you have been lied to. He said this thing at the beginning of this is how a cover-up is born. You know, so after he said, you know, you've been lied to, he did this big laundry list of just lies, right? He was like, you've been lied to, magic glass, magic hairs, inverted videos, butt dials galore, you're told to look the other way. And then he espoused on the nature of truth. And then he said, this is how a cover-up is born. This is how a mass state trooper starts a cover-up to, quote, pin it on the girl.
So how does a cover-up happen? How could that happen? Well, let's count the ways, shall we? Handpick your investigator. Make sure it's someone we know, someone on our side. Keep him close. Offer him help. Offer him a gift. Have secret friends and family meetings. Get your story straight. Delete your call history. Make mysterious phone calls at 2:22 a.m. Delete Google searches. Monitor police activity. Get rid of evidence. Get rid of your dog. Destroy your phones. Destroy your SIM card. For the investigator, decide on a narrative early on. Don't go to the crime scene. Don't take witnesses in for questioning. Question all the witnesses together. Ignore witnesses who don't fit your narrative. Allow friends and family to contact those same witnesses. Don't record interviews. Write vague and false police reports. Omit witnesses' names. Omit witnesses' interviews altogether. Don't photograph the evidence. Don't conduct any forensics. Don't document the evidence. Don't document the logs. Don't create any logs whatsoever, and don't maintain a chain of custody. Keep all the evidence in the hands of one person, and then manipulate that evidence, including videos. Don't turn over videos. Invert videos. Turn 4:16 p.m. into 5:30 p.m. in affidavits. Turn 3 pieces of taillight into 5 pieces of taillight.
Yeah.
And it's not how it hypothetically happened. This is what you actually saw happen in front of you.
You saw 3 pieces of glass turn into 5 right before your eyes. And you were told, pay no attention, look the other way.
It's not if they lied, it's how many times they lied.
Yes. And he was like, there were secret family meetings. Don't document the evidence. Don't maintain a chain of custody. Make secret calls. Delete your call history. Get rid of your family dog that you've had for 7 years. He was so concrete and like brought back the most important moments, and then was able to say like, and he listed like so many things in each of these soliloquies that was just like, if a juror forgot a detail, like he brought it back in a way that was, you know, he said things today that I forgot about. Nice. I forgot about the hair on the bumper. Like I forgot I did. And he's like, the magic hair on the bumper that stayed on a bumper. The snowstorm. I was like, oh, that's a really fucking good point. That does
sound implausible. Yes. one of my favorite things, I know like you and Lily did the simulation of a silent 22-second call. And then he actually did just a simulated, like, here's what that call might have gone like, and put words in their mouth, which what were the words? Almost supplies wasn't objected to.
Well, you can't object during a close unless you do something like horrible. But like,
I don't know.
It was like, can you kind of help me move something heavy?
Yeah. It just almost felt like it was over the line, but like, well, all right. Yeah.
That fits in 22 seconds.
Yeah. It was entirely plausible. That's the thing. It was
yeah. I was so glad that he brought up the most important thing that I heard, and he said it was the most important thing. He brought up all the time the state's own witnesses disproved their own case.
Nice.
The most important thing I ever heard a state's witness say, there were 2. One was the medical examiner. The other one was Trooper Guarini, who said that Karen's phone auto-connected to John O'Keefe's Wi-Fi at 12:36 in the morning, which proves that she could not have been at 34 Fairview at 12:32 in the morning. She could not have been there.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, and then he goes through this whole TikTok. He ascended a flight of stairs between 12:21 and 24. You know, Jen McCabe says she was outside the house at 12:45. She was staring outside the house from 12:30 to 12:50. That wasn't possible. That the whole TikTok, someone was holding his phone at 12:32 and he took this many steps. That, you know, it was like, she was gone by at the very latest on a good day in good weather, 12:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
That was incredible. And like that's like the kind of sleuthery thread tying that like we do in our podcast. When we hear that evidence, then we talk about it and we're like, for God's sake, so let's hope he brings that up later. And then he did that over and over and over again. Did you pick up on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it was good storytelling. And we'll contrast that to the next one. But I appreciated when he said, I wrote this down, I think I'm being kind when I say that Trooper Paul's testimony lacked credibility.
Mm-hmm. He was actually kind of like not as mean as he could have been to Trooper Paul, right?
Yeah.
He was like, he didn't have the training.
Mean, actually. Yeah.
No, right? It was like he didn't have the training. He didn't have the knowledge. He didn't have the understanding.
Yeah.
All true.
Yeah.
Have you seen any clips of Trooper Paul?
No, I think I've seen a picture. That's all. But
Yeah, he was. I will tell you, Trooper Paul is never going to live this down for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
He's probably going to be like. So there's this thing that my son Teddy did when we were on vacation when he was like 13 years old.
Yeah.
And we were playing a game, a trivia game about music. And, one of the cards said was like this group made their debut in like 1982.
Uh-huh.
But he had never read the word debut before, so he pronounced it debut.
Of course.
And to this day, we like make fun of him. Well, you say the word debut and he fucking hates it. Like it makes him crazy. Like he gets so mad and it's so funny to all of us. And it's like, it's like all in good fun, making him crazy. He is never going to live this and stuff thing down, this guy, Trooper Paul, for his entire life. Yeah. And I kind of feel for him because it's like, he's in a job where mediocrity is rewarded and like, that's just the system. And, he's probably, I don't want to say that he's probably a prick, but he could be very well be a prick. Like, I don't know. But like he was out of his depth and this is the job he was given. And I believe that he was given this job in this case because they could not find an expert to say what they wanted to say except for him.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
One thing he talked about was it's not a thin blue line. They have built a tall blue wall.
Incredible
What
moment.
A visual.
Michael Proctor did not build a thin blue line. He built a tall blue wall. It was an incredible moment. He did tell some stories that were like not in evidence that I think were just interesting theories. But by the way, he knew Lally was going to do the same thing.
Sure,
and Lally, the whole prosecution was made up stories that they told, random hitting a thing, spinning around, like scientifically impossible shit. And also, claiming that her text messages and stuff meant one thing, like a story that they think is true. So he told some stories that were also concocted. I mean, let's be real. Like he told a story about Brian Higgins being angry that Karen was done with him and seemed aggressive and annoyed and didn't like being annoyed that Karen was done with flirting with him, and that intimated that Higgins had a motive.
So he's 5 or 6 whiskeys deep into the night by this time, and she continued to ignore him. Then oddly, Higgins, who doesn't know John all that well, seems to want to coax John to 34 Fairview. I draw your attention to the waterfall tape if you want to take another look at it. It's at the 11:57 mark, between 11:57 and 11:58. Take a look at that tape. He's just about to leave. Higgins is just about to leave. He points over at John and he motions for him. Come on, come with me. And then at 12:20, he texts him, "You coming here?" This is a person he doesn't really know and didn't really talk to that entire night. Ask yourself, why was Higgins so insistent that John go to 34 Fairview that night?
He told a story about, Jennifer McCabe calling, John O'Keefe's phone over and over and over again and searching for his phone, which had gone missing, which, by the way, kind of came up earlier in the trial, too. But, like, that's a theory. So he brought that up. Great story.
If I can, so these are things that we think happened. They're not speculative, but they weren't in evidence.
Well, you can't put that in evidence, but she was asked. So basically, while she would have been at the Albert House, so there's a whole thing about when they left. They say they left at like 12:30. They didn't.
Yeah.
There's data that shows stuff, but there's also a lot of deleted stuff.
Right.
There's a point at which she tries calling O'Keefe's phone. I want to say it's something like 20 times.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot. And she calls them butt dials.
That's a lot of butt.
And they're never, and it's like butt dials are picked up by like voicemail, right? And these are just hang-ups.
But this is the theory that like they're looking for the phone to see if it rings or vibrates.
The theory is they can't find the phone in the house, and so they're searching for it, and that's why they're using her phone. And then all those calls, I guess, were deleted.
Ugh.
And I've seen the document. All the calls actually were deleted. So there's a whole thing where like, he talked about this today, a whole series of people's histories and calls were deleted. Their Google searches were deleted. Everything was deleted. The one person whose phone did not have any deletions or anything was Karen Reed's, who voluntarily gave over her phone. Now, I just want to stipulate one thing is that when Karen Reed was first arraigned, like, she didn't remember anything. And I will say to this day, she probably will say, like, details of that night, do I remember them? No. I just know that I didn't do this because now the evidence points to the fact that I didn't. But the day she was arraigned, they were saying it was probably an accident, and she didn't. So I believe that I hit him things were more of a question. Did I hit him? I hit him.
Yeah,
That's what I believe.
a lot of questions about that. I mean, just the kind of vibe I got from that was like, maybe like she just, sometimes there's people just, first some people will take responsibility first, and maybe like she's assuming that something happened, but she doesn't know. So she's just assuming the worst. And also that's a lot of drinks. If that TikTok of the drinking how it went down,
Yep.
she probably doesn't remember all those details. I mean, yeah.
Oh, those people were hard drinkers.
Yeah.
Hard drinkers. Like, it really stunning. And like, I used to drink a lot more than I drink now. I mean, anytime in my life that I've ever had like 9
in an hour and a half.
Jesus, that's a lot. And she's tiny. She is a tiny, tiny little person.
It was interesting in the video coverage is, most of the time during the argument, it's the camera is on Jackson, but it cut over to focusing on her during the discussion of her calls and texts.
Yeah.
And I kind of wished it to stay on him, but it was kind of interesting to see her reaction too. And what I kind of saw, and I'm no doctor, but is almost PTSD. Most of the time she was just pretty calm and measured, but there I just caught a little bit of a shaking of just remembering just how bad that was.
Yeah. I'll just say one thing. This is my opinion. I was not present for their relationship, and I was not present for anything. And John O'Keefe is dead.
Mm-hmm.
So their relationship seems toxic, but I will say that what I read in those texts and what I sort of hear, definitely a toxic dynamic. Yeah. Definitely he does not seem like a good partner.
Yeah.
And so, I think that it's really easy to canonize dead people.
Mm-hmm.
But when you read what he's saying to her in those texts, it's very gaslighty.
Mm.
It's very, it's not great.
Yeah.
And then when you hear the testimony that came up earlier about like them being on this trip to Aruba, like this again is me sort of like drawing lines, but I just want to say the dynamic seems familiar to me.
Yeah.
The idea of this like man who has like a lot of women friends who all like stand by him or whatever, and then has a girlfriend that all the women friends hate. And then is like flirting with other women, and then is like, like the fact that like she dropped him at a party and then that he never came out, and that seemed like a thing that she was not surprised by. The relationship wasn't good, and I'm guessing, based on evidence that I have seen and heard, that he was not a great partner to begin with. And, I think that a lot of her stuff around him, people's like, it's like, she's so awful. She's not grieving enough. She's not whatever. It's like, I'm sure she's done with that part. And now she's realizing, the reality of the relationship. I'm sure she's not fucking happy he's dead. No one is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not happy he's dead. If there weren't a dead person at the center of this, though, this would actually be the funniest thing I've ever
right.
like seen in my life. Like, the whole thing is so absurd.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, but I will say, like, there's a lot of toxicity here. The relationship wasn't great. I don't think anyone is saying it was. And his like Jackson's extolling of the lovingness of the relationship was a little bit weird to me. But anyway,
it's like that. Yeah. That felt over a little much.
Their communications were not normal. I don't want anyone to be like, this is how normal couples talk. It's not.
Yeah, it's not normal, but also not, murdery.
Yeah. Oh, what a great way to cover up a murder, huh? Leaving voicemail saying how much you hate somebody.
Yeah.
Jeff, I hate you. You pervert.
Yeah.
That's how I'm covering up the fact that I murdered you.
That's good.
Yeah, it's a good plan.
That's good. Well, I have a voicemail from earlier that says you love me, so that's fine. The only other thing that I took note of is definitely at the end of the defense argument, I think at the beginning too, he used some language. I wrote down, "The truth is everlasting."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, this is like very almost evangelical language. And I don't know if that's just appealing to truth or if he knows jury demographics or something. I don't know.
I think there's like a rhetorical grandiosity that lawyers sometimes employ in openings and closings that is expected.
Yeah.
He's very good at it. Lally tried to quote John Adams at the end of his closing.
Nice.
It did not land. But I will say one other detail that he brought up, in his closing that I thought was really interesting was he talked about, the masked, coated state troopers on the crime scene that other people at the scene couldn't identify that could have easily been planting evidence.
Seems mysterious.
He talked about Lieutenant Tully lying on the stand, pulling out the plastic. I mean, his very concrete invocation of lies told on the stand. I was like, oh, that's right. I remember that lie. And his clear pronouncement of them as lies. Yeah. Because they were, I thought was really, really smart.
Not mistakes, not people getting the details wrong, not being flustered as lies.
No. And the state didn't seek the truth again because they sought to, quote, pin it on the girl.
On the girl.
Which was in one of Proctor's text messages. And, he ends, of course, with telling the jury they have the highest power imaginable, which, a jury loves to hear that they have all the power. So,
and hey, C.F. McCarthy gets more shout outs. So,
C.F. McCarthy's got another advertisement. I got to tell you, I've heard from a listener who lives in that area and told me C.F. McCarthy's is great. Kevin loves an Irish pub, so we're thinking about making a field trip. I hate the idea of doing like true crime tourism, but he does love an Irish pub. All right.
Well, I've told you, if you ever do make it out here, you're getting some suspect tourism from me, so that's fine.
All right, I'm down. Oh, I forgot about something really important in Jackson's thing because Lally had a lot of visuals. Jackson only had like one or two.
Yeah.
And the one he had that was so important was the taillight photo.
Okay.
Of her leaving John O'Keefe's house with her almost intact taillight. And him invoking that one cop from Dighton who saw her car at her parents' house, was on the stand very briefly and said her taillight was cracked with only one small piece missing. Got off the stand quick as hell that he did not cross-examine that guy. And then he showed a photo of it to the jury and said, this is the only photo you need to remember is this almost intact taillight.
That taillight is cracked, but it's not completely damaged. And if there was any question in your mind about the level of damage to that taillight at 5:07, all doubt was extinguished. When Dighton Police Officer Barrows walked into this courtroom, he's a sworn officer, he's not associated with Canton, he's not associated with the Alberts, he's not associated with the McCabe's, he doesn't know Michael Proctor. In other words, he doesn't answer to any of these folks. He's an outsider and he's completely independent. And his words were the following, quote, "That taillight was not completely damaged. It was cracked. A piece was missing, but not completely damaged." Take a look at this photograph and tell me, which one looks like Officer Barrows' description?
Does this look anything like this photo that the prosecution's been showing you of what the taillight looked like after Trooper Proctor had access to it?
Right.
The completely knocked out taillight. He talked about the inverted video.
Yes.
He talked about that being on purpose. I 100% agree with his assessment of that. That was a lie that the prosecution was telling in the courtroom, and that was wild. That was very important. Lally gets up.
Mm-hmm.
I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
And I'm like, hearsay, hearsay, hearsay. He constructs his own timeline. He had lots of visuals. And he punctuated his timeline with text messages, I hate you voicemails, which he says are proof that she murdered him. But he never explains the actual murder, like how.
Yeah, it wasn't super clear.
What did you think?
My first take was, and I know this is standard, but just calling her just the defendant. And I know it's standard, but when Jackson had talked earlier about the objectification of her, then that's what stuck with me. Was that is the first thing that the prosecution did was objectify her. She's just the defendant. Again, that's normal. It's strategy. It's what you do. I hit him. It's powerful if you ignore hearsay rules. Yep. It's like, I can see why they'd want to at least interview her. Sure. Makes her a viable suspect. In general, my impression, I'd heard the clips and the analysis about his examinations and questioning of folks, which wasn't great. This was better than I expected based on that. So maybe he's better at the arguments than at the examination part, but I found him much harder to follow than Jackson. So he's definitely not as good of a storyteller.
He's not as good at the examination as Jackson.
Yeah.
So he basically rehashed the entire circumstantial case that Jackson had just spent his whole summation completely tearing down.
Yeah.
He restated many of the facts that Jackson had just shown us in his summation were not true for actual reasons. He was like, this scientist said this, so now we know it is not true. And then Lally would bring it up again as a fact.
Yeah. We just want them to forget. Just forget the 2 days of forget the only 2 days of defense work that you just heard and the last hour.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, probably the one thing that he said that I think he thought was profound that it struck me as if he thinks this is the most profound thing he said, it says everything you need to know about his summation is the weather was a weapon.
Yeah. It's a good line.
This is a second-degree murder trial, though. So second-degree is not premeditated murder. Okay. Second-degree murder is murder that happens in the moment that I did not premeditate, but it is a murder on purpose. So imagine a world in which you're saying a woman committed a murder on purpose by backing someone over with her car, but thought in the moment, the weather is a weapon right now.
Yeah, that feels more premeditated than...
Yeah, the weather is not a weapon.
Yeah.
The weather is a cause of death, but the weather is not a weapon.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a very strange thing to say. The other thing that he pointed out was that Brian Albert, the day before this, drove to New York to go to the funeral of a cop that was a stranger to him.
Oh, I missed this. Okay, interesting.
He did not point out, however, that Brian Albert, Jen McCabe, Colin Albert, who were all in the courtroom, none of them went to John O'Keefe's funeral. Brian Albert served in the same department that John O'Keefe served in for a period of time. They none of these people who claimed to be his great friends went to his funeral.
And cop funerals are big things.
They are. So yeah, it was really, it was what it was. People who are very anti Karen Read, she's definitely guilty, which a lot of them are bots online and a lot of them are people. By the way, there are very few, I haven't seen any actually, anti-Karen Read, she's definitely guilty accounts that have real names attached to them. I mean, even Turtle Boy is Enid and Kearney. Almost all of them are an account name and then 6 numbers.
Of course.
kind of thing. So they're all Lolly was magnificent. Lolly was incredible. And I'm
yeah, no way.
I can't even wrap my head around it. I mean, there was a moment she called the 5-minute time thing. And the thing that really struck me about Jackson was she called the 5-minute time thing mid-sentence. He was like, okay, and finished his sentence and just kept going. And it was so clear that he had rehearsed his timing and knew his timing. She did Lolly's 5-minute thing, and it was so clear that he wasn't close to done. She gave him a 1-minute reminder, and he was still seemed not close to done. He put up an exhibit. And then she was like, you're out of time.
Oh, jeez.
And he was like, I only have 1 sentence left.
Leaving him incapacitated and freezing to death.
Mr. Lally, I have to stop you. You've gone over. Okay.
I literally have 1 sentence left.
1 sentence I'll give you.
Blah, blah, blah. You have to find guilty. And it's
dude,
it was you felt like you were watching in high school, how they're really good public speaking students and they're really bad public. I felt like, man,
oh, jeez.
Put your, and Jackson was working off of type pages in a binder.
Yeah.
And there's software like Descript or whatever, you put what you're going to say through and it times out how long it's going to take.
Yeah.
It uses your AI speech patterns. You know that Jackson's firm has that shit. By the way, you can get the free version of Descript and it'll do the same thing, or get the $60 a month version. It will do the same thing. Write your thing, put it in. Sonics does it. There's a bunch of pieces of software that will do it. Yeah. Times out how long it will take for you to say the thing.
Use our code crime. Yeah.
You know that Jackson did that. That's how he knew. He told a reporter that his speech was going to take 58 minutes.
Yeah. Well, and when she gave the warning, and he actually he looked at his pages. He was like, "Should I skip this page?" And he's like, "Okay, exactly. Start here, go." Yep.
Probably, yeah. Lolly had a pad with notes on it.
That was,
and it was
lame.
Just so like
rinky dink.
It made me sad. Like, didn't make me sad for him. It made me sad for everybody whose cases he has prosecuted ever. And like, it made me sad for the people of Massachusetts who are paying for this.
It's a metaphor, but it was literally true here. Is one was buttoned up in terms of their jackets. One was buttoned up and one was not.
Yes.
It was literally true.
Yeah. So the jury has the case. They deliberated today for a couple hours. They were sent home. They're going to continue deliberations tomorrow. Do you think they will return a verdict tomorrow? What are your thoughts? Do you have an opinion?
If they do, it wouldn't be early. So I would say maybe they'll make it to lunch, take a break, come back and vote again, and maybe have something by then.
Do you think they are voting and disagreeing, or just discussing and then they're waiting to vote? Because the judge told them to not straw poll, which, as Kevin said, is actually a bad practice. He's not wrong. She said, don't straw poll because that actually reveals biases. She's not wrong. If I were the foreperson, I might ask people how close they were to being ready to vote. Maybe I wouldn't actually do the vote. Yeah. The foreperson is a man chosen by the judge. It was, again, just a choice. It wasn't like, it's not like New Hampshire where you go in and the jury chooses their own foreperson.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then she made it clear the foreperson is not of a special role except to organize and then read the verdict. So I'm curious, do you think, we don't know. Well, like, if you were on this jury, like, what would your inclination be?
I mean, I would say, there's two things. One is they've heard so much stuff. It could be A, they want to revisit all of it, or it could be B, they are so sick of all of it that they just want to be done. Yeah. I could see either way, depending on the people and what their personalities of kind of, are they completists or just want to be done?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Jackson gave them like timestamps and videos they should look at.
Yes, that was
He's
great.
like, if you want to see that again, go to the so-and-so timestamp.
Yep.
So they must be able to review materials, which is interesting. Which I thought was...
I think that's normal, right? I don't know.
It's not in every state. In some states, you cannot review materials and you can't take notes. You just have to use your memory, which is so fucking weird.
That's crazy.
I know, it's really weird. And in some states, like, you can look at materials but not have notes. I don't know what the rules are in New Hampshire. I'm guessing, because he was saying the timestamps.
I knew
they
had notebooks because the judge said you'd put your notebooks away during the arguments. So
yeah. So they must have the exhibits. I'm guessing. Yeah, so I don't know. I know that they're obviously discussing. If I were on the jury, even if the jury were indicating that they were leaning toward not guilty, I would lean toward saying, let's take our time and go through every reason why each and every one of us is saying not guilty. Every single reason, no matter how long it takes. Because I want us all to write down the 25, 30, 50 reasons or one reason why we have reasonable doubt. I want to write down all of it so that we're all prepared if asked, if polled, if asked, if confronted, if whatever. I want us to all feel good about it. I want us to all, and also I just feel like it engenders confidence in the courtroom to all walk out and feel head held high. We discussed it. Also, I think if a jury comes out in 20 minutes in this case and does it, it would be easy for people to say like it was a fix from the start. Yeah. I mean, that would be my. But I don't know.
One thing that done recently in a group meeting where it was a discussion, not like this, but where you definitely want to avoid the groupthink problem, is give everybody time to write down their notes quietly by themselves, and then you go around the room and talk about it, but like based on what you wrote down, not on what you heard the last person say. Because if it's just like, okay, who wants to volunteer their first thoughts, then you get the loud people, and you get some people that get intimidated by that or influenced by it before they have a chance to put their own input in.
Right.
So that's how I'd run a jury.
You're a good manager.
Well, I'm somebody who has trouble speaking up in meetings in the other circumstance. So
I told you, Jeff, you're not a thumb.
Well,
You're not the kind of person who's waiting to talk while someone else is talking. I can tell.
Oh, I've had to fight it.
Ooh.
I've had to fight it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Active listening is a skill I've acquired
Yeah.
over the years. It's not one I was born with. Let me put it that way.
I've learned to take notes instead so I don't have to try to keep it in my head.
Mm-hmm. All right, Brumley. Well, we're on Verdict Watch. I cannot thank you enough for joining me for this edition of the Readathon. Yes?
Can I give one shout out? I want to give it.
Absolutely.
So you know that this whole thing has brought in some new patrons. I want to give a shout out to
like 100 of them.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to my friend Monica, who has joined for this and
Yay!
just listened to her first Meredith podcast yesterday as well. So.
Oh, Monica, thank you so much. I would love you to stay. I have ideas about the things I might do next in terms of thinking about like things that are unfolding and how I might be able to talk about them in a way that is smart on a more consistent basis, because I feel like I may have figured something out about what I enjoy doing with this platform through this case. And I've been thinking about it for a long time. Like, what am I missing? Not just for the audience, but for myself. And this case is like, it's not just unlocked something for me that's interesting about the criminal legal system and whatever. It's also unlocked something for me about what I like about podcasting that I have either discovered or forgotten I like doing. So
it's like that question that we asked you about what's the future of podcasting. It's like you've decided to find some new things.
I've decided to try some new things. Yeah. And I think I started with OPP last summer, which was super fun to make. And I may be making more of that. But also, I just like engaging with things in slightly more real time, I think, than I thought I did. And I don't mind making mistakes nearly as much as I used to.
Yeah.
Which helps.
Yeah.
Because when you do things in more real time, you make mistakes. And that's not, I think, as counter to journalistic ideals as I used to think it was. Because you can make a mistake or, say you don't know things and still provide value. Or if you say something that's live in the moment, you can say, you know what, again, tomorrow, I said something yesterday that I was wrong about. As long as you put it in the show notes too and acknowledge it, unlike some podcasts, I think that's very important.
It's
all right.
Yes.
Well, I have to now edit this because that's how it works. Jeff Brumley, I cannot thank you enough for joining me for this edition of the Readathon, and you have to come join me again for a future thing that I may make.
It's a pleasure.
Back here. And Monica, I can't thank you enough for joining us back here. Tell me how to keep you. All right, that's it for the Readathon. We'll see you tomorrow, hopefully, for Verdict Watch. Bye.
And now for the Readathon addendum. I can't believe that I forgot. The other day I created on ChatGPT the major characters in the Karen Read trial with a touch of humor, haikus. First, Karen Read. Lexus mishap night. Did I back over my bow? Awkward morning. Yikes. Trooper Michael Proctor. Texts gone public. Oops. Caught with pants down. Metaphor. Open mind? Sure, bud. Jen McCabe. Late night Google spree. Cold death time is trending now. Innocent browser. Alan Jackson. Objection master. Probing like a dentist does. Reasonable doubt. And last, Prosecutor Lally. Dots connecting fast. Building case like IKEA. Instructions unclear.
Partners in Crime Media.